Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the launch of We'll Sing, a commission project by the Huddersfield Choral Society in response to the current pandemic. My name's Greg Batsleer, and I'm proud to be the director of the Huddersfield Choral Society. In this evening's short event, we'll be showing our two films for the first time, as well as having contributions from the project's key collaborators, Simon Armitage, composers Dan Kidane, Cheryl Frances-Hoad, and Brian Hill from Cemetery Films. In March this year, choirs throughout the UK and throughout the world fell silent. The world was shut down. Singing in particular took a heavy bashing in the media as a dangerous activity, and musicians throughout the UK, both amateur and professionals, were denied the precious expression of making music together. In April this year, the Huddersfield Choral Society experienced firsthand the brutality and pain that this pandemic can cause. We received the tragic news that two of our members, Stephen Brooke and Philip Carlin, had both died of COVID. Like all the members of this choir, Stephen and Philip were deeply committed to the power of collective music making. Stephen had been in the choir for over 40 years and had served in various roles within the choir, such as General Secretary. He'd been president, and more latterly, he was working with me on the programming. It's fair to say, and I think everybody in the Choral Society would agree with this, that the Choral Society well and truly was Stephen's life. Philip Carlin had been in the choir for just under 10 years and had become a crucial member of the back row of basses. Philip was a real man of community and had a particular impact on people's lives in Manchester through his work as a minister and a teacher. All of us in the Choral Society will remember them in our music making for years, and I hope generations to come. As lockdown took its hold, it became clear that music making as we knew it was gone and would take a long time to return. As an organisation, we had to adapt quickly and find new ways of ensuring members remained engaged with us. The duty of all amateur music organisations is, of course, to the public through its concerts, but crucially, it's to its members. Without our members, we are nothing. Within the first few days of the first lockdown, musicians across the globe began flooding online platforms such as Instagram and Twitter with content, some of it brilliant, some of it maybe more questionable. It's a matter of taste, I guess. It became apparent very quickly that this screen, our computers, our TVs, our phones, were going to become, for the time being, our new concert halls. The Huddersfield Choral Society was determined not to be defeated by the severe challenges we faced, and we're going to embrace this moment as best it could. Through discussions, we decided that the best way to do this was by creating something new, something that would respond to this remarkable moment in our history, something that could help us grieve, but also fuel us with hope. Now, I'm sure many of you who are here this evening joining us, and I'm so delighted you are from all different corners of the world. If you're a singer, you will know this fact. Choral music is nothing without words. Without words, there is no choral. It is just music. And that's what makes this art form so special, is that we bring music and words together. It was clear to us all in the Choral Society that if we were to really embrace this idea of creating something new, this would have to involve new words as well as new music. We wanted to create something fresh, something unique, and hopefully something truly original. So, look no further than to our famous local lyricist, Poet Laureate Simon Armitage. He came on board to the project with all his heart, following which we added two fantastic composers, Daniel Kidane and Cheryl Frances-Hoad, two of the UK's finest young composers who've been writing music for all number of ensembles throughout the UK. But the other part of the puzzle that we had to fix was that concert halls were boarded up, and the question of how we would present this piece, these new pieces, was a puzzle we had to solve. Continuing our commitment to the new and to finding new ways of expressing ourselves we decided that we would also commission a rather fantastic film company to turn these pieces into films. And I'm delighted that Brian Hill and Century Films came on board to work with us on this. So we had a plan. Fingers crossed, and away we went. First step first, words. Before putting ink to paper, Simon Armitage, the aforementioned world-famous local lyricist, asked each member of the Choral Society to submit one word that summed up their experiences of the pandemic. These words that the members of the Choral Society wrote formed the inspiration for the two sets of lyrics, which I'm thrilled Simon will be reading for us all this evening. These two lyrics were then sent out to our composers who spent the summer setting them to music. Now, as I'm sure many of you are aware, commissions can often take years to write, but both Cheryl and Daniel were able to produce these wonderful works in time for the Choral Society to begin rehearsing in September. Now, rehearsing a choir in a pandemic is not easy, I can really assure you that. And I'm sure there'll be many books on this one day in the future. So in September of this year, the Choral Society, the Huddersfield Choral Society, the world famous Huddersfield Choral Society, began its 184th season with rehearsals online. Now I do wonder what Sir Malcolm Sargent would have thought of this. Rehearsals began on Zoom. We had wonderful input from our vocal coach, Joyce Tinsley, and we were able to get our teeth stuck into learning these two new works. Online rehearsals, of course, pale in comparison with the real thing. But the members of the Choral Society, give them credit where credit's due. They stuck in and got their hands dirty like true Yorkshire folk. I have to say, I think some of them were perhaps using the internet for the first time, and maybe they were learning a thing or two along the way. So as the restrictions momentarily eased, we seized the moment, and through immense work from the senior officers of the Choral Society, we were able to come together to rehearse these commissions in person. This was in small groups, no more than 15 at a time, all socially distanced. But we were all making music, albeit momentarily, together again. Now, towards the end of October, just before we were all put back into national lockdown, we came together to record these two works. Recording a piece of music in a pandemic is not easy either. Now, the Huddersfield Choral Society is a choir of 150 singers that come from throughout the whole of West Yorkshire. And it was basically impossible to record it in one sitting with everyone together in one room. So with a bit of magical help from a sound engineer, we were able to record each section at a time. And David Jones, the sound engineer, was able to put these pieces together along with an amazing accompaniment by pianist Ed Cohen, who I believe is with us this evening, was able to put these pieces together and create that world famous sound that is the Huddersfield Choral Society. Following on the making and the recording of these two works, we then handed them over to Century Films, who spent the last few weeks filming across the UK to create the videos that you're going to all see this evening. This has been a gargantuan collaborative effort from all involved. It has been profoundly moving for us all to be part of, and I have to say has given us all hope. It shows that no matter what the challenges may be, through true Yorkshire determination and desire, we can all make music. I feel incredibly proud to have been part of this and do hope you enjoy the films. Now, folks, here we go. We're going to crack on with the event and we're going to now launch these videos. But before we do that, I'm delighted to welcome to this event the Poet Laureate, Simon Armitage, who's going to introduce the first work, We'll Sing.
Yeah, thanks very much, Greg. I just wanted to say, what an honour and a privilege it's been to be involved in this project. The choir are my local choir, so I've grown up with their harmonies and melodies as a soundtrack to my upbringing. So I was very happy to take part, and I welcome everybody who's joined tonight. I can see that's people from as far away as San Francisco and Laureate. So you're all very, very welcome. As Greg said, I asked people to submit words from the choir, not especially to use as material, but just to use as sound-ins and signposts. I was just interested to know what kind of mood people were in. And there were words of frustration, there were words of loss and bereavement. There were also some very funny words and some slightly unrepeatable ones as well, which made me think that the kind of Huddersfield sense of humour was still alive and well. And I think there are moments of humour in this first piece. It's called We'll Sing. The lyric moves from sort of slightly strange, bewildering, even surreal detail of lockdown in its beginning phases through, I hope, to something more optimistic at the end. And the chorus, I wanted to be a little bit defiant and bloody-minded, giving people the opportunity to say that we will sing, despite the fact that we are being told not to. And the lyric on its own goes something like this. A train in the sidings aches with rust. The motorway makes an emergency stop. A single vapor trail drifts and melts. Wilson has swapped his pipe for a mask. Till the world discovers its voice again, we'll sing, we'll sing. The shopping centres are overgrown. It's always Sunday except in church. A traffic light runs through its range of moves, but nobody stops and nobody goes. Till the world discovers its voice again, we'll sing, we'll sing. A downpour drums on the bandstand roof. The west wind strums the trees in the copse. Sunlight fingers the cobweb harps. A blackbird stirs and opens its throat. Till the world discovers its voice again, we'll sing, we'll sing. You will have heard reference there to Harold Wilson. There's a big statue of him outside the railway station in Huddersfield, and he has occasionally been seen with a mask over his face of late. Harold Wilson is Huddersfield's second most famous person, James Mason being the first.
Music by Cheryl, Frances-Hoad, and words by Simon Armitage, We'll Sing. I hope you enjoyed it, folks. That really captures the essence, I felt, of community singing, which the Huddersfield Choral Society has been doing for over 180 years. And in the video, you see many of our members in their homes, and that moment in time where we could all come together and record and sing together. It's a moment I'm sure we'll remember for the rest of our lives. I'm really thrilled now to welcome to this evening's event composer Cheryl Frances-Hoad. Cheryl, I believe you are with us.
Yes, hello.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. I think, Cheryl, first of all, thank you so much for your beautiful music. It was a real pleasure and privilege for us all to work on this piece. Could you maybe just talk to us all here a bit about what it's been like to work on this commission project?
Well, thank you for the wonderful performance and the wonderful film. It's really, really emotional to see it for the first time. Yeah, I think the thing that really, the thing for me about this project was, as Simon said, the sort of the privilege of being asked to do something so at once so sort of globally relevant to everyone at the moment, and so pertinent to Huddersfield itself because of the loss of the two members of the choir. So that sort of I felt the weight of responsibility when writing this piece. But I'm really glad that you said it sort of my piece is like that sort of shows the essence of community singing, because that's what I was really going for. I wanted I wanted to write something. I felt a great sense of empathy whilst writing this piece, and the idea of writing a sort of piece that can provide solace, but I also wanted it to be enjoyable, and I wanted to give each section of the choir a solo, because I thought that would be a nice thing to do. So I sort of trying to weigh up many different factors in my mind while I'm writing the piece. And I mean, in terms of the actual notes, I mean, it came very quickly to me, really, because the imagery in Simon's poem is just it just suggested music immediately to me. So sort of there's everything from the train to the blackbird and the rain and the piano. And it was really helpful speaking to Simon at the beginning of the project, because as he says, it starts with these details and then sort of pans out. I felt in my mind a sort of panning out into nature, almost like a camera panning out, and so the tessitura of the piano part gradually it starts very much in the center of the piano, but once you get to the end, it's covering the whole range. But overall, I think it was just such a privilege to be asked to be involved in a project like this.
You've done a lot of work writing for choirs, I know. Are there particular challenges that you think a composer faces when composing for choirs, and was this on your mind, or were there challenges that you felt, because obviously you knew how the way we're going to record it in sections, did this play a part in how you compose the piece?
Yeah, I mean, I spent a lot of time worrying about the way it was going to be recorded, but then I thought, I just have to trust in the choir and you and the people putting it together. And so I did put that out of my mind. It's interesting. And I still don't really know the answer to a lot of the things I was worried about. I was worried about how one tunes when you can't hear other members of the choir, but it seemed to work incredibly well. So I was glad I sort of put my worries to one side. When I'm composing, so I mean, I've composed music for children who can't read music, right through to sort of professional choirs who can pluck notes out of the air, and I just continually think about the people who are actually doing it. I want to make something that brings the best out in the people singing it, whatever standard, whether that's kids who've sung for the first time or seasoned professionals. And I sort of have this sort of continuous feedback loop in my head of what I want to write and of how it will sound and how it will how it will feel to be performing it, how it will feel to hear it, and just trying to balance my artistic ambitions with common sense, I guess, and practicality. And I never quite feel I get it right. I was, I'm continually aspiring to get the perfect combination of things.
And what was your we've made these into films, and we perhaps without the pandemic would have just performed them if we'd been commissioning something. What was your first reaction to seeing the films?
Oh, absolutely loved it. I think it's so sensitively done, and I mean that's an area that really appeals to me. I mean, one of my ambitions is to do a TV opera, so to be involved in a project like this that combines text, music, and the visual is wonderful.
Well, speaking of films, I'm delighted also that Brian Hill, director and director of Century Films, who put this film together, is with us. So Brian, putting together music videos like this in the pandemic, all sorts of challenges. Do you want to just talk to us a little about the process that you've been going through?
Yeah, all sorts of challenges, and also working on a quite a small budget, which was understandable, and trying to make 2 films in a very short space of time. And I think it's true to say that my original plan for each of these films changed dramatically because of the ever-changing situation of COVID. And we were fortunate that we did come up to film the recording of both songs. So we had that, and then my intention for We'll Sing was to take choir members out into different locations around Huddersfield, around the town itself, and in the countryside, and film them singing it. And then we went into full-scale lockdown again, so people were obviously couldn't come out to do that. So we had to think of another plan very quickly, because, as you kept telling me there's a deadline. We're showing this on very soon. And you have to think, well, how can we do this so quickly and still make it, effective and good, and make it worthy of the music and the efforts of the choir. And I just had this very simple idea that we'd just film people behind their windows, because that's a common thing about what's happened with COVID. We're all looking at the world from inside, looking through panes of glass, and that's affected everybody. That's the case for everyone. So I thought, well, let's just combine the images that we have of people singing when it was recorded with a number of images of people behind their windows, and then we can film that very safely. It could be quite moving, and that's what we did. It was a simple process, and really enjoyable to do, actually, for being simple. I think I'm pleased with the result, and it seems to be, people seem to be kind of enjoying it. Yeah.
How have you, as a filmmaker, found the pandemic has affected your work more generally?
Oh, enormously. I mean, I've carried on working throughout the pandemic, and I was very busy during the first lockdown. But I made a drama series using this technology, using Zoom. So we filmed with actors in their own homes. We had 57 actors on 14 short films, and it was all really new and exciting, actually. I mean, nobody wants a pandemic, nobody wants to be restricted like this, but I think for all of us in the creative industries, whether you're writing music or singing or acting or making films, you figure out a way of doing it. You figure out a way of making something happen, and that's great. And I've been really heartened to see, the things that people have done around the world, the music they've made, the films they've put out, the performances that have happened, and people seems to have really sparked people's creativity.
Yeah, brilliant. And we've got 2 very different films. So we've seen the film of We'll Sing, which features Cheryl's music, and then we also have the second film, The Song Thrush on the Mountain Ash, which features composer Daniel Kidane. How did you approach this piece, Dan? What was your way of going about it? Obviously, you had time with Simon. I just wondered if you could, we're going to hear your piece shortly, but I just wondered if you could talk us through your compositional process and what things you wanted to draw out in writing this music.
Yeah, well, once again, big thanks to the choir and everybody involved. It's an amazing project. In terms of the music, there was definitely a level of stillness. I wanted it to be reflective. There was a particular line within Simon's lyric that I really sort of resonated with me, and that was through the hospital window. And it's this idea of looking through panes of glass, as Brian mentioned, and this almost binary type of, on one side there's something happening that is very sad and very unnerving, and on the other side you have this, almost the nature, the tree, the song thrush. So this flux between the two was something that stuck with me, and I wanted to create a piece that was meditative but not mournful in that respect, in the sense that I didn't want it to be dark and gloomy. I wanted it to be more uplifting and as I mentioned, meditative.
Are there particular things that you think we should maybe listen out to? I think the piano part, for example, is particularly colourful in this piece. Was there anything you wanted to draw out within the piano part particularly?
I think for me the piano part was this sort of resonant instrument that sort of it almost evoked the idea of the bird song. So it moves along. The choir part is quite static, whereas the piano part elevates, and the register of it is quite high. So for me it's almost as you're looking out the window and perhaps you're looking at clouds and they're moving quite slowly, but perhaps you can hear a bird song somewhere in the distance, and it's this mirage of sounds that come together.
And obviously the dance and the way this film has been made is very, very different to Cheryl's, Brian, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, again, we had to have we didn't have much time, we didn't have huge resources, so I had to think of a very simple way of realizing this song, and I listened to it again and again and again, and of course the idea that people see their loved ones through glass and they can't be with them is common to lots of people, and very moving, and I found the song very moving. And I kind of had this idea that we should get some dancers in and a choreographer and devise a piece where we had two dancers on either side of a piece of glass. And that's what we did. I contacted a choreographer called Nat Zangi, who usually works with pop music. This was a bit of a stretch for her, but she kind of jumped into it wholeheartedly, and she got two dancers. And they rehearsed, and I went along and we talked about the piece, and we talked about what it meant, and we talked about the emotion that they would need to bring to the piece. And they did one day of rehearsing, and then we found a location, which is an extraordinary location, and we filmed for one day, and we just did it, and they were absolutely fantastic, I thought. And again, I was really pleased with it.
Well, thank you all for your contributions. I'll come back to you with one other question just before we finish. But before we watch the next video all together, Simon, I thought we'd hand back to you, and you can read us the lyrics and give us an introduction to the song Thrush and the Mountain Ash.
Yeah, thanks, Greg, and everybody. I wanted to write something in the style of Thomas Hardy. He's one of my favourite poets, and he often describes the cruelties surrounding love, and this has been one of the really agonizing things to watch in the pandemic. The barriers that have come between people when they're trying to have contact with each other. It's outlawed some of our most intimate and innocent activities. So it's almost written in a ballad style, really. I think the kind of scene that a lot of us have become very familiar with, particularly on the news over lockdown. So the piece is called The Song Thrush and the Mountain Ash. Through the hospital window, she said to me, she'd forgotten the name of her special tree and forgotten the name of her favorite bird. Through the hospital window, I mouthed the words, the song thrush and the mountain ash. Through the hospital window, she asked again why I stood outside in the wind and rain, and she said she didn't understand why I didn't want to touch her hand. The song thrush and the mountain ash. She said she liked the flowers I sent, but wondered why they had no scent, and why the food had lost its taste, and why the nurse had covered her face. and why the gates of the park were shut, and why the shops were boarded up, and why the swings were tied in knots, and the music, why had the music stopped? Through the hospital window, I called her name and waited a while, but she never came. And I saw reflected in the glass the song thrush and the mountain ash, the song thrush and the mountain ash.
The Song Thrush and the Mountain Ash, music by Daniel Kidane, and words by Simon Armitage. So folks, we're coming to the end of this short event, but just before we do that, I've got one more question for all of our panelists before we end. And my question is as follows, guys, and I'm sorry I didn't give you any preparation about this question. Our lives throughout the world have been changed in this pandemic. I guess the question I would like to know, and the question I'm going to ask is, what have we learned from this? What can we take forwards that we can use as inspiration as we go forward through the next few months and years following on from this? Who wants to start us off? Daniel.
I just think it's made me think a lot about the fragility of the normal. You know, everybody takes normality for granted, but I think it's shown everybody within the last year how it can be turned on its head. It came out of nowhere. It was so unexpected, and it really makes you consider what is important, and you know, the time that we have, and everything that's linked with that. So that's my learning.
Cheryl.
I think for me, one thing is just the importance of continuing to create beautiful things, I think. Sometimes during the pandemic, I sort of doubted the point of what I do, but events like this make you really realise that, you know, it's very important.
I think what I've learnt is, and what I hope I'll carry into the future, is that people are amazingly resilient and amazingly creative, and just to be involved in this, which was such a privilege for me, to work with all these people under difficult circumstances and produce something great. I think it shows that we can do things, we can get by, and it shows the importance of art in our lives, I think, and long may that continue.
Yeah, I would just echo what everybody else has said. I think the arts have been the shining light through this situation. It's been a catastrophe for the arts as an industry, but I think more than any other field of endeavour, they've seen us through, and the universe that isn't just one based on information and fact and news. And as Brian said, we're an incredibly adaptive species, and I'm proud of the arts, you know, in the way that they've found a way not just to keep going, but to sort of lead the field in the response.
Folks, that draws our evening basically to a conclusion. First of all, thank you for everybody for joining this. It's been amazing to see so many people from all over the world, it seems. I've seen flashing up of chat from people from all over Toronto, and even further afield, perhaps Slough even, people have been saying. So thank you for joining. Thank you to everybody also who's donated to this project already. If you would still like to contribute and offer donations, musicians across the world have all suffered from this. And if you would like to continue to donate towards the Choral Society, details are available on our website. I'd also like to thank the contributors, the composers, Daniel Kidane, Cheryl Frances-Hoad, filmmaker Brian Hill, and Poet Laureate Simon Armitage for being part of this collaborative project. For me, it demonstrates the power of collaboration. But the final people I want to thank are the people of the Huddersfield Choral Society, the members of the Huddersfield Choral Society who have shown such resilience in this time to keep their voices heard and keep their voices singing louder than ever. And I have real hope that we will forever continue to sing. So thank you for being with us. Look out for our next treats. A Christmas hamper is on its way, an online Christmas hamper. And I hope we'll all see you again, either here or in person before too long. Goodbye.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you.